Hi, everybody. Welcome to our CV writing workshop today. I'm just going to give it a couple more minutes to let some more people come on in, and then we'll get started. Okay, perfect. I can see a lot of you are already here, so welcome. Thank you again for joining us for day 2 of Careers Week. Today, we're really lucky to host Dr. Elena Hoffer, the CEO of Alma.me. Before we kick things off, I just want to spend a couple of slides to introduce Protein Tech in case you're unfamiliar with who we are. So Protein Tech is a leading life science reagent manufacturer of antibodies and immunoassays. We have an extensive portfolio of antibodies that encompass many different research areas, and we also offer kits such as ELISA kits and IHC kits, as well as our cell separation kits and our antibody labeling kits. Within our Protein Tech brand, we also have our humankind branded cytokines and growth factors, and all of our recombinant proteins are raised in HEC293 cells. So you can be confident that they have the native folding, post-translational modifications, and glycosylation that you would expect to see in human proteins, which ultimately will increase their bioactivity. We also have our Chromotech branded nanobody-based reagents, and nanobodies are about 10 times smaller than traditional antibodies and combine to their targets with really, really high affinity, making them ideal for things like immunoprecipitation, super resolution microscopy, and protein purification. And lastly, we have a subsidiary of Protein Tech called Protein Tech Genomics that manufactures antibodies that are conjugated to oligonucleotides to allow for protein detection alongside your single-cell RNA sequencing. So all of our award-winning products are manufactured in-house, and we have the largest portfolio of antibodies for the human proteome, as well as a rapidly growing recombinant portfolio. And we truly understand the importance of high-quality validation. Therefore, all of our validation data is open access to our customers, and we perform knockout and knockdown validation wherever possible. And as antibody experts, we've got really good in-depth knowledge of immunoassay applications, and we can offer outstanding technical support to all of our customers. We also have 7 inventory sites with manufacturing and research across 3 different continents, allowing global next-day delivery. And I just wanted to highlight that we define our success as a company based on your scientific success. So far, we're helping you guys publish over 300,000 citations, which puts us in the top 5 antibody cited companies. And I also just want to highlight that as a company, we strive to make the searchability of our products as user-friendly and informative as possible. And we actually have a new website update that we've launched to help our customers select the right antibody. So this includes our unique 3D epitope viewer that allows you to interact with epitope structures and explore antibody binding sites so that you know exactly where our antibodies bind to your protein of interest. We've also introduced advanced filter options to help you find exactly what you need, such as our immunogen region selector toggle that allows you to filter for antibodies generated exactly from your region of interest. And additionally, you no longer have to filter through all the variations of an antibody from the search results. You can view all formats, including conjugations, buffer formulations, and just one page that ultimately will streamline the process for your antibody selection. And with that, then, I just want to introduce our wonderful speaker for today. So we're joined by Dr. Elena Hoffer. So Elena completed her PhD in immunology at the Karolinska Institute, which she successfully defended at the end of 2023. And then immediately afterwards, Elena founded Alma.me, a company dedicated to supporting PhDs in their transition from academia to non-academic careers. With a big vision to provide tools and knowledge to PhDs, she collaborates with universities to address this need by offering scalable career preparation solutions for their PhD programs. And in her day-to-day work, Elena empowers and inspires PhDs worldwide through talks and as a LinkedIn content creator, where she shares daily insights and guidance on navigating career transitions. So I'm going to hand over now to Elena, but if any of you do have any questions, please do just put those into the chat and we'll come back to them at the end. And with that, I'll hand over to you now, Elena, and thank you again so much for being with us today and for delivering this CV writing workshop.
Thank you so much, Poppy. First of all, welcome everyone. I don't know, wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, or good night. Before I start my presentation, and while I start my presentation, maybe you can just pop into the chat, where are you located? Because it could help me. You know, there are minor differences between CVs, and in the US, we call it resume. In the UK, we call it, CV or resume, both works. In Europe, we call it mostly CV. So, oh, wow, guys. Okay, but I get a good impression. We're quite international, so I will try to address all of this, and I am going to share my slides now so we can get started. So first of all, again, welcome to this session here with Protein Tech. Thank you for the invite and kind of making this happen for all of us. As Poppy said, I'm a PhD myself. I've gone through the transition myself. I've built a company that I wish I had when I was a PhD student who had to make the transition. And yeah, today I'm here to share all the knowledge that I have about CVs and how to build a CV, but I will go much deeper because we're all researchers. I do not only give you the recipe on how to build it, but I also give you more information. Why do we do it the way we do it? Because I guess we always, as researchers, are curious about the why, and I think it will help you develop an understanding of why we do it, and this will eventually help you to build a resume that actually, or a CV. So if I refer to a resume, just so you know, it's the CV. Resume, as I said in the beginning, is mostly used in the US. So it's a bit, there is no one word that works for both, but I might say CV or resume, and they can be used interchangeably. So today, I quickly want to show you what I want to walk you through. I really want to help you to discover the difference between the academic and the non-academic CV. He teaches us there is a difference in how to build a non-academic CV if we want to move out. So I hope I can help you understand the difference. I will also want to help you to understand how you can really market your skills in your non-academic CV. What is the language they use in industry, and how can you adapt towards that language coming from academia, and how can you change it? That doesn't work, so let me see here. So I have a question for you, and I'm not sure, Poppy, you might need to help me out. I can't see the chat, but how does the recruiting and hiring process work? This is the very first thing I want to work with you through, because if you understand how it works, it will help you to understand why we do certain things differently in a non-academic CV compared to an academic CV. And I would really like to ask the question, and now I can see the chat again. Perfect, it's up here. Who reads your application first, guys? Just throw something in the chat. What do you think? Who's the first to read it? Whatever you think. I need to actually scroll down because I have a lot of answers in here where you guys are located. Thank you so much. HR, AI, hiring manager, ATS. I love all of these. I love all of these. It's what I usually get to read. And while many of you said AI, it is true that it goes through something that we call ATS, and I haven't prepared an individual slide for it, but I just want to address this quickly. So when you send in an application, it usually goes into a system that we call ATS, and ATS stands for Applicant Tracking System, and it does nothing else but tracking all the candidates throughout the application process. There are knockout questions that humans define, and knockout questions are really binary questions. Is a yes or a no question. Are you able to move for your position? Yes or no. Do you have work permission in this country where you apply? Yes or no. These are knockout questions, and if you don't fulfill these criteria, this is when you can get an auto rejection. Otherwise, you are rejected by a human eye. So far, I haven't heard, and we work with a lot of recruiters. We work with different hiring managers across the US and in Europe, and I haven't heard about a single one that automatically rejects through an ATS system candidates. It's really only the binary questions. So with this being said, the very first person who will read your application is usually a recruiter. And there are two different types of recruiters. We can think of external and internal recruiters. So you have external recruiters that, you have a small company and you hire a recruiter to help you source a certain type of profile. Then you have the internal recruiters that may work in your company. They might have worked there for a long time, so they're more familiar with, the subject, like let's say in pharma, they understand already the pharma language. When you work with external recruiters, you have to be aware they source for all type of roles. Like it can be from pharma to tech to insurance companies. So just be aware of that, because this will help you understand who's your audience. And why do we care about who is our audience? We care about our audience because I think always as the first rule of communication is really, if you want to make someone understand something, you need to understand who you're addressing. So this is what I really try to do here. And when we think about recruiters, they usually have a very limited technical understanding. So they're not like you and me, they're no PhDs. And the other day I put a post out which literally went like this: 99% of the world will not understand you as a PhD. And why is that? Because only 1% of us hold a PhD degree. And it's really immensely important that you need to understand most of the people don't know what it means to go through PhD education. So it's really our task to help them understand in a language that they can understand, which is often not too technical. You need to find a balance between technical language to make sure you can show that you know what you're talking about, but you also need to deliver it in words that are actually meaningful to the audience. And usually what do recruiters? They screen masses of candidates against the basic set of criteria. So the criteria are set by the hiring manager. And so just be aware of that. They have usually a high volume of people coming through. So then you have the hiring manager, and the recruiter is not the hiring manager. These are two different people, right? The recruiter does the job. I always call them like the gatekeeper. So they look through the resumes or CVs based on a set criteria. The hiring manager is the one that you get in a second instance. Mostly in a first instance, you meet the recruiter if they're interested in you. So the recruiter is the one who makes the first decision whether you should move forward to the hiring manager or not. And again, so the hiring manager is the one who has a deeper technical understanding. So there, if you think about it, the hiring manager, you could more think of like, when you go in academia and you apply for a postdoc and so on, these people might come from a similar field as you, but that's also not a given. So be aware of that too. They're usually the primary decision maker on who is hired, but in general, how the decision is made, it's made. Is there a presentation being shared? I can't see it. Yes, there is actually. Anyone else has a problem seeing it? No problem, I can see it. Okay. Okay, perfect, no problem. I just wanted to make sure. Okay. So, and the hiring manager only gets to see someone who is possibly being hired. So if the recruiter has a belief that you might be a good fit and match for the role, they will send the candidate forward to the hiring manager. Just so and this is just a little bit of background for you. So you understand when you go out and you write your CV, who you're addressing. So this really brings the question up, what does that mean for your CV? And this is what I will walk you through today. So we will address this in more detail. Okay. So let's talk about the structure, the structure and the length of a non-academic CV. I think that's really important because sometimes we work with a lot of PhDs. Sometimes we get 11-page CVs or resumes sent in for review. So let's see how we can actually modify this towards something that is more appreciated or more industry like. So, and before we start, I have again a little question. I try to keep this a bit engaging and interactive. Do you guys have any idea what are some differences between an academic CV and a non-academic CV? I would love to hear. Just throw it in a chat. Length, good one. Shorter, no publication list. Yeah. Length, academic. Yeah. Okay, cool. Emphasis, love all of it. Okay, so you guys already got a good idea that there is a difference and what the difference may be. Impact-oriented, love this. We're going to talk about this later. So this, you all have seen this document, the academic CV. It's quite lengthy and it contains a lot of detail. It contains all the conference presentations. It contains all the publications. And this is really important in academia because they value different things than industry does, right? They want to see, have you published in high impact journals? Have you presented your work? When you move in industry, all of this seems not to matter anymore. So we can really just cut it down, and you can see you can easily go from a 4 or 5 page CV now to a 1 or 2 page CV, which is really what we would recommend if you apply within industry. So here you see a few differences, which we have already kind of, I think, addressed most of them, but I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. So basically, you can skip the presentation and conferences, you can skip the grants and funding, you can skip the honors and awards. I know, we work so hard for all of these things, and all of a sudden someone comes and tells me it's not really important. It's unfortunately the way it is, because most of the people, when you go out, they don't really know anything about the journals you have published. They have often not been in academia themselves. So for them, it's just information. They can't really make anything out of it. So just be aware about this. So there are certain things you can just go over basically. And now I want to come back to something, or I want to do a short, let's say, quiz with you guys. Imagine you're a recruiter and you have only 13 seconds. So this is the reality, right? A recruiter will spend in average 13 seconds to scan your resume. And this is something I really hope I can give you on the way. So if you had 13 seconds, and I will give you guys 13 seconds, I will show you 3 different resumes, and you just throw in the chat which option you would choose if you got 13 seconds to choose a candidate. Okay? Here you go. B, B, C, second, 3, 3, C. Okay, cool. Okay, fantastic, guys. I love all of the answers. It's always nice to see. It's somehow a competition between B and C. A, no one chose A. Can I ask the obvious question? Why did no one choose A? Or if you didn't choose A, why didn't you choose A? And this is just important. Yes, thank you, guys. This is just kind of like, you see, this is so cluttered. You can't actually see relevant information. It's really hard to skim. So when we look at B and C, and a lot of PhDs we work with would actually go with the B version. And I don't know, maybe it comes from the, when we walk out and we're told when you move into industry, your CV needs to be different. I think the way maybe our own interpretation of being outstanding is maybe to add a lot of color or add a lot of icons. But the reality with B really is it distracts the recruiter or the person who scans through from finding relevant information. So when you think about the CV, there is a visual hierarchy to a CV, right? When you use colors, use them intentionally. Here, it's just like all over the place. You don't really know what is important. The university is in red. Then the actual relevant information, like data scientist, kind of moves into the background. So you want to be aware that when you do these things, it will draw the eye to certain spots. So, and it's a bit overly designed in this case, B. And when you look at C, and I'm not saying C is the only format you can use, but it's a format that we know it works quite well, is because you have a visual hierarchy. You do have the role you're applying for. Many people don't do that, but that's actually quite helpful. And we will go through this step by step in the next 30 minutes, guys. So you don't have to be not like, I don't know how to produce this. That's the reason why we're here. So it's really easily skimmable. And, you give the recruiter in a minimum of time the information they want to see. The first thing they will look at, does this person have the skills? If they see, oh, they have the skills, they might actually be interested in reading further. And in today's market, recruiters can receive within the first 24 hours up to 200 or 300 applicants. So one thing that I'm not specifically addressing, but I want to mention in this case, when you go out and you apply for jobs, try to be in the first batch of the first 100. Because if a recruiter can establish a candidate pool within these first 100, they might actually not look at the number 300. Because the reason is a recruiter is also evaluated based on the time when they can deliver high quality candidates. So if they can establish a pool of high quality candidates in the first 100, there is no need for them to keep looking further. Okay, so that's an important piece of element you should know. And the best experience when we work with PhDs is we tell them apply early, and this seems to be really a game changer for most of them. So just as another thing. So cool. Now we're all on the same page. We would go with C. Now I want to get started on how we can actually build this resume. Sorry guys, I forgot about it. I have actually prepared a slide here. It's why do we go with C? It's easily scannable. It's not overly colorful. It has a bullet point listing of your skills, which is always easy. When you think about someone is skimming through something, bullet points are extremely helpful. And it has a visual hierarchy. Okay, so before we move into how to build it, I want to address a few common mistakes that we see, especially PhDs make. I assume this is something a lot of people make. It's just because no one ever teaches us the skill of how to build a resume. But very common CV mistakes we see with PhDs is there is a graphical overrepresentation. Too many colors, too many icons, basically the B resume. Then we see this type of version of resume that is very sparse and too little information. So it would just be like, you know, I have done a PhD, this is my work experience, and there would be 3 sentences about what they did. It's not enough. There is no information that gives the recruiter enough information to actually make a choice whether you could do the job or whether you could not do the job. Then the third point we saw, no white space. It's a wall-to-wall text. And you saw this is basically, it's impossible to skim through and find the relevant information. So all you always want to try is how, when you put yourself in the shoes of a recruiter, think of how can I help this person find the relevant information quickly? And then putting everything in you ever did. Remember one thing. If there is one thing you go out with today, if there is one thing you go out with today, actually, please, you don't have to put everything in you ever did. Your resume or your CV is a trailer. It's not the entire movie. Think of it as something that should make people curious to want to know more about you. It's not, the purpose is not to get a job. The purpose is to get an interview. So make people go like, wow, I really would love to know more about this person. And I'm actually curious to invite them to talk to them. This is kind of like the thing you want to evoke. So, and with this, I gave you now a lot of background information to set the stage to go through the different elements of a non-academic CV and how you can actually build it. And what I actually want to say at this point, I actually wanted to do it in the beginning, but you know, I forgot. I just wanted to say that Alma.me has thrown in 3 resume writing masterclasses that we usually offer to PhD students. And everyone who is interested in winning one, we came up with the idea that if you want to create a social media post about this session and you tag Protein Tech and me, Elena, either on LinkedIn or on Instagram, and I will send you the URLs later in the chat. Please do so, and you will enter the raffle to win a CV writing masterclass. And why I say this is because everything we're going through right now will be explained in a step-by-step way, and you can easily recreate your own one. So let's start with the header. That's the first thing, you know, a recruiter will see. And I also want to say, as we're starting with this, there are certain differences between different countries, and I will try to point them out and make you aware that there are differences. So we start with the header. In the header, naturally, you want to have your email. You want to have your LinkedIn. If you have a GitHub, if you're a data scientist, put your GitHub in 100%. And you also want to have your name, and your name should be the most prominent, actually. Now here, at this point, a lot of people ask us, what about a photo? So the photo is really country dependent. However, it is optional in Europe. I see it in Europe a lot. So if you're in Germany, if you're in Sweden, people still put a lot of pictures. I do think it's actually moving away from this trend because it introduces a lot of hiring biases. There's a lot of hiring biases towards someone, you know, looking beautiful or whatever it may be. In the US and in the UK, do not add a picture. It's not a very common practice, or you actually shouldn't. It can disqualify you. Just to point this out. Another regional difference, For an example, when you're in Germany, it may be that in the header you may add even your address, and you may sometimes even add marital status. So it's a bit more detailed in Europe often. So this is how you can think of your header. Very simple with the prominence on your name. Yeah, date of birth, I saw someone just wrote, it's very common in Germany too, or in Europe is more common. But again, think about it, it can introduce bias in terms of ageism. Oh, she's too old. Oh, she is oh, she's maybe, you know, about to get kids. So it's optional, I would say. I personally wouldn't include it. Then let's move on to the professional summary. And when we think about professional summaries, it's something that should really catch the attention of whoever is looking at your resume or CV. It's the first thing they will see. And I see so many. We talk to recruiters all the time. They see so many AI generated professional summaries. And you know what there are? They all sound the same. And people can tell. So please, please do not use AI to write your summary. Why? Because when we move into industry, personality matters. It matters more than when you're in an academic field. Why does personality and who you are as a person matter more in industry than maybe compared to academia? Because when you move into industry, you will work in teams. You will work in interdisciplinary teams. You make things happen together. So you move from individual sport into moving into a team sport. I think this is the best way of how I could describe leaving academia. And I know we do collaborate, so it's not a complete individual sport, but you're the one driving the project. You're the one setting deadlines. A lot is so much more dependent on you. When you move into industry, all of a sudden it becomes a team sport where you together have to work to make something happen. So think of, and the way I would recommend to write such a professional summary is really think about personal attributes. And you can think about 3 things on how, you know, someone would describe you. You can also go out and ask your friends, what are personal attributes that you would, you know, attribute to me if you don't know yourself? What are 3 ways of how you would describe me? Because I know it can sometimes be tricky to think about yourself and think, oh, what would be a personal attribute that I could add? Or, you know, thinking about yourself, you could also go to your current boss because they usually know you quite well. I would also recommend you to put in career goals. So where do you want to go? What are your personal objectives in the future, really? You want to mention at least 3 to 4 top skills. So what are your top skills that align with the position? I think that's a naturally given. So everything you write in, it should align with the position that you're actually applying for. And here, if we look, we can just have a quick look here at the at this professional summary. So here, for example, you have an innovative computer science PhD with specialized expertise in machine learning and big data analytics. So we already know now this person is innovative, has expertise in machine learning and big data analytics. Cool. Has also proven ability to develop advanced algorithms, leading data-driven projects, and contribute to interdisciplinary research. So this tells me a couple of things about this person. It tells me the different skills. The person has led data-driven projects. So he was in a position where he actually made, you know, where he was the leading the guide and contributed to interdisciplinary research. And then this person describes what are they actually looking for, seeking to leverage analytical skills and technical knowledge in a data science role with a forward-thinking tech company. So forward-thinking tech company, here he brings the alignment to the company into the role. So the company now sees, oh, wow, that could actually potentially be a good fit for our company. Oh, sorry, that was not on purpose. I just wanted to remove the chat to the side. So when you think about your personal summary, think about making it, you want people to see who you are as a person. You want the personality somehow come through, right? You don't just want to sound like everyone else, because this is a real way of where you can differentiate yourself. And you get these 3 sentences. So, cool. When you have a nice professional summary, and I know this is actually the thing where most people or PhDs struggle with. That's why they actually then go and use AI. And while I think AI is not a complete no-go, write it yourself and ask it maybe to refine it. So you don't want to lose the personal attributes, but AI cannot write it for you from the beginning because it literally knows nothing about you, right? You then want to move on to the skills section. And the skills section is very intentionally fit after the personal summary, because when you think about the recruiter will skim, and the first thing they will see is the professional summary, but they will also see the skills. And the skills now give them a reasonable belief whether you can do the job or not, and whether it's worth keep reading or not. So, sorry, I just moved the chat away because, sorry, that was the wrong button. So, and how can you create the skills section? This is a question we get a lot, and I understand it's really difficult because you think about you have all these skills. But what I really would like to encourage you, make a list of all your skills. Make a list and think, what are all the skills I have used in order to get to this publication output? And then I would recommend you, then the first step is really just a brainstorm. It's just sitting down and starting understanding what is it that I did, right? And then I would say you choose 5 to 7 skills where you outshine others, where you're really good. You can come into a company and you can just apply them independently. And here the question, should I include, sorry guys, should I include soft skills or should I include transferable skills? Absolutely. I would say find a balance between technical skills and soft skills and transferable skills. It's not, you are not only going to be hired for your technical skills. I can tell you this straight away. People will want to look for someone, you know, who is a good communicator, who is a good collaborator. Because again, when you move into industry, you are moving from an individual sport to a team sport. So just be aware that these soft skills might actually matter much more than you would assume they matter. And here, I also want to say, here is a little section where we have the selected achievements. So if you have achieved something you're really proud of and you think it's relevant for the role, please include it. If you think this is something that actually makes you, positions you as a candidate that is, you know, super suitable for the role, please add it here. Okay, so now I do have a little task for you guys, because I do know a lot of us, they have a challenge when I invite them to think about their skills. So when you think about the output of your PhD, a lot of people always say, oh, Elena, but I only have publications. Yes, you do. That's correct. And when you stay in academia, this is how people will evaluate you. This is how they will define whether, you know, they should hire you or not. But when you move out and when you leave academia, other things seem to become more important. And one of these things is really like your skills and how you applied these skills. So we're moving away from, you know, a publication-based hiring to what are the skills you can bring into my company to solve a certain problem. So the real value become the skills you acquired to get the publication, but also the experience you gained along the way. Because producing a paper requires you to apply all sorts of different skills. And I really want to invite you to look at it like this. You know, you do have acquired a lot of expert knowledge, but what did you acquire else to get this expert knowledge? What else did you acquire to get this publication? You had to write, think about it. You had to write long text. You wrote abstracts, you wrote whole papers. You had to communicate your science. You had to communicate your science to different stakeholders. Think about this. This becomes often very important when you move into industry. You have communicated to different audiences. You need to adapt the way you communicate to these audiences. Often in industry, you talk to senior managers. They have no idea about all the technical stuff. So you need to be able to explain often more complex ideas in simple terms. And all of these things become really, really important when you move into industry. And this is what I'm trying to say. Soft skills or transferable skills start to become really important. Think about data analysis. You all have analyzed data. Sometimes I like to bring this example because most of us in this seminar, if you ask me or anyone else here to read a graph for you, none of you will have an issue to understand the graph, to make sense of the graph, to explain the graph. But I want to remind you, it's not a skill. It's not something everyone could do. It is a skill. So try to really reflect, where was I before I started my PhD and where did I go? And what did I learn along the way? What are the experiences I had? And these are the really valuable things. So think about the problem solving. Think about how you had to manage multiple projects at a time. You know, you had to keep deadlines, you had to manage resources. I just want to invite you, make a list, and you will realize, oh my God, I have mastered so many things actually while I did my PhD. Cool. So now let's move to the professional experience section. There people go like, what do I add here? Guys, you all got a PhD. I would definitely recommend you add your PhD. It is work experience. You have worked on this. This is not only theoretical experience. You have actually solved problems in the lab, right? So what I would recommend to add here, first of all, you start with the most current experience. So you start with your PhD. You can make a translation. So when you think about it again, who do we address? We do address a recruiter in the first place. So what you can do in order to make it easier for the recruiter to understand, let's say you did a PhD like me in medical sciences, but all you ever did is analyze data. So most of the part you learned coding, you analyzed data, you made sense of data. This is what your main thing was. Now you go out and apply for a data science position. If you now write researchers, if you write researcher, there might be a bias, and the recruiter might not necessarily know what researcher actually means. So what I can recommend you to do instead is clarify. And I'm not saying make something up that isn't true. I'm just saying clarify for the recruiter what that means. So you could say researcher / data scientist. And this is just simply to give them a term that they actually are familiar with. Because researcher is a very, very broad term, right? But if you have analyzed data, and if this is what you did 70% of the time, you can say / data scientist. So depending on what that may be for you, we work with a PhD. She has a PhD in chemistry. But what did she did only analyze corrosion data. That's all she did. So she writes in her CV, PhD in chemistry / in brackets in the education section, focused on data analysis or focused on computationally focused. So it's just about helping clarifying. And I know I get a lot of, when Angela and I talk about this, Angela is my co-founder, when we talk about this a lot, we get a lot of resistance. And I understand, because when we're researchers, it's all about, we always want to make statements that are 100% truthful. And some PhDs think it's not completely true. If you don't feel comfortable with it, don't do it. But the reality is it's not untrue either, right? It's just to help industry understand what you did. And why is this not a problem when you move into industry? Because in industry, positions are can have different titles. So there is no standardized titling. You may do marketing in one company, but you actually have all sorts of other responsibilities that are actually way beyond the title. So what you try to do, you translate what you actually did into a title that would describe better what you did than what the actual title is. And that's often completely normal in industry, because again, no standardized titling. What would not be okay, I just want to clarify this, what would not be okay is to say, I did a PhD, but this relates, it equivalates to be a PI, because that's not true, because then you would have a different level of responsibilities. But it is okay to clarify what you actually did in your PhD and make it familiar for someone who reads it, who has never done a PhD and maybe cannot really relate to the PhD experience. So what do we add in this section? So the way I would actually build it, add here, in this case, it says data scientist, you write researcher / data scientist, whatever feels right for you. And then I would really recommend you to, at the company, in this case, it's the university where you did your PhD, and then the department, and you also write where you basically did it. You write the title, you write the dates from when to when you were in that role, and then actually you describe the role in 2-3 sentences, very, very shortly. What is it that you actually did there? And then in the next step, find 3 to 5 bullet points that will accurately describe what you actually did and what were the outcomes in this role. And this is something we're going to talk about in like 5 minutes. We're going to move from a tell to show what you actually did description, or because when you move from academia into industry, they want to understand how can your skills and how have you applied these skills in your previous roles, and how can you apply these skills in a new scenario. So you need to help them make the translation and understand what are the achievements you have had in the past, so they can get a reasonable belief you can come into their company and achieve similar things. So, and I want to guide you through this. I have an example for this actually. So this is the professional experience role. Try to focus on 3 to 5 bullet points. I wouldn't add more. So now one of my favorite topics, let's talk about language, because when we move from academia into industry, and I always say industry and I actually mean any non-academic position, we need to adjust the language that we use, right? Because when we are in academia, we often use very, oh, sorry guys, let me see. Here, exactly. I have more to say actually about the experience section. Sorry, guys, I should have turned on the other view. So when we think about the bullet points in the experience sections, the way we want to build these statements, they're impact-based statements, and they provide evidence of your skill. So instead of just saying, I have done this, you now provide evidence that you have developed this skill. And that's very important because, again, if I see how you have developed this skill and what was the outcome of you applying this skill, I can see how you can bring this into my new company and implement similar outputs. So how you build this, you state the action. In this case, for example, engineered, right? Then you share the approach or the skill that you actually used. Here, sophisticated machine learning algorithms, and then you say what is the outcome of you applying the skill. Enhance the data processing efficiency by around 30%. So this is the impact, this is the benefit that you brought to the company. And I know that many of our outcomes are not maybe yet, you don't have the outcome yet. So this means you can talk about potential outcomes. You can talk about potential outcomes that you have brought through your PhD. So I did a paper, guys, it's not even published yet. My own, the project that I led is not even published yet. And the implication of what I did is probably somewhere 30 years down the line. So I identified T cells basically that, there is a new population that could be used for as a new target when it comes to treating psoriasis. So now I can talk about a potential outcome. I can talk about a population that I identified that can be used as a potential new target. Is it out yet as a potential new, is it out yet as a new target? No, it's not, but this is the potential of the research I did. So this is what I state. So we move basically from a descriptive statement to a impact-based statement, evidence-based statements. We bring evidence how we applied the skills and what the outcome was. So let's say you say conducted research on genetic disorder. It's very, very broad, and I cannot really see, which skills you applied. I cannot really see how you can apply this in my company, because you're literally not talking about the actual skills and what you implemented. So I would invite you to, just as I showed you now, and this is just an example, to say, as an example, instead of saying conduct research on genetic disorder, you can now say identified a new therapeutic target. This is your achievement for a rare genetic disorder that impacts X people annually, leading to the initiation of a phase 1 clinical trial. And again, now not everyone is in a phase 1 clinical trial. Talk about potential outputs. So again, if we think about this, I identified a subset in the human skin that has certain properties, and they seem to be quite involved in potentially the disease maintenance of psoriasis. So this could be a potential target. So then I could say I identified a new subset of T cells in an inflammatory disorder that impacts actually 2% of the world population, leading to or showing a potential new target for psoriasis treatment. So now this is a very different statement than saying I researched T cells in the skin. It gives the reader an impression of what you can do and what you can bring into their company. And I know I'm repeating myself a lot, but it's just so really important to make that translation and show them what you did. Don't only tell them. So, and last but not least, we have the education section. Do add the education section at the end. And this also, again, might differ depending on which country you are. There are certain countries that require more detail in the education section, and there are certain countries that require less detail. But in any case, add the education, and it does go to the bottom. Education is very important, but the first thing you really want to see them is the skills that you can bring to the company. At the university where you got it from, you may also add different certificates if you have any. I would recommend leave the year of graduation out to avoid age bias. We talk to a lot of recruiters and no one wants to have bias, but there is age bias. There are certain biases and we're all human. It's really hard to take it away. If you want to avoid that sort of bias, don't put it in. Even now on LinkedIn, people don't put it in because it actually introduces a lot of bias and it helps people to kind of make the assumption on how old you are. And as I said before, some countries may appreciate more detail than others. So it really depends on where you live. I think the US usually is more concise, very, straight to the point when you go to Germany. Germany in general, or maybe the Central Europe is more focused on education. It becomes a bit more important. So just check this out. Yeah. And then that was actually it. I wanted to leave a lot of questions for you, or I wanted to leave a lot of time. We have like 15 minutes for questions, but I also would like to ask you if you have a minute before we start with the questions or we jump right in to give us a quick feedback on the CV writing session here. I would be very interested in hearing about some new learnings. Unfortunately, we had only 1 hour, which makes it very compressed. Again, if you would like to win one of these resume masterclass where we guide you through step by step, and it's a very hands-on, action-oriented class where you can learn by doing, please write a social media post, talk about maybe, what you've learned today, what you've taken with you. And yeah, I'm very happy to take any questions now. And I wonder if I should probably just stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Elena. That was amazing. We've had so many questions.
Okay.
Everyone's so engaged. It was really good. I myself was writing down some notes.
Cool.
So no, a massive thank you. I will give you a couple minutes just to have a drink, catch your breath, and I will run through a couple of closing
Yes,
slides.
sure.
If you don't mind just stopping sharing.
Yeah,
Wonderful,
absolutely.
thank
Here
you.
you go.
And whilst I'm just running through our closing slides, make sure anyone, if you do have any questions, pop them in the chat or the Q&A box. And then, yeah, we've got quite a bit of time now to have a discussion with Elena. So wonderful stuff. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight all of the other career resources that Proton Tech have available completely for free. We have so many blogs on our website written by experts such as Elena. Yeah, you've actually written one yourself for us. We have on-demand career workshops and videos. So all of the things that we've done in the past like this, we've put on our website. And we also have our Early Career Researcher Hub, which is just a nice little collection of anything careers based we've ever put out before. You can find us on our website. It's on that link there, which we'll circulate with you all, or we will, if you go to our website, ptglab.com, and go to the support tab, you'll find it all there. And in case you weren't aware, this talk is actually part of a series of careers talks we're running all week for our Careers Week, where we're running daily careers workshops on a whole host of different topics. If you go to the website, we actually have a digital careers pack for you guys to download, which includes some more resources also from alma.me. Things like journals to help you figure out how to write a CV and the kind of career direction you want to take. And everybody who's entered into at least one of these webinars is in a raffle to win a premium resume package from alma.me as well. And I just wanted to highlight the keynote talk we've got on Friday. We've actually got the Chief Scientific Advisor for the Food Standards Agency coming to talk about how he manages his role in both as a professor in academia and also as a policy leader in the government. So that'll be a really, really interesting talk. Make sure you've signed up to all of them if you are interested. Again, you should be able to scan the QR code or just find it on our website. And with that, again, I just want to say a huge thank you, both to Elena and to everybody who's popping questions in the chat. I can see we've got loads of questions, so I might just stop sharing my screen so that you can see Elena's lovely face a bit better. Oh, is that okay? Can you see us again? Perfect.
No, oh yeah, sorry, I know no one can answer. So we can see you again, or I can see you again. So
Wonderful.
I'm trying actually to find the start. Okay, how can you tell where your application is the first 100? I mean, it's really hard. For example, on LinkedIn, you can see how many people. Oh, sorry, Poppy, I just jumped into the questions. I hope that's fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Courtney asked, how can you tell where your application is, the first 100? So it depends a little bit on the platform you use to apply. You know, you can apply through different, like Indeed or LinkedIn. LinkedIn, you can always see how many people have applied for a job. But as a general rule, I would recommend be as early as possible. So have alerts set, because it will really make a difference if you're in this batch of, excuse me, if you're in this batch of like the first 100 applicants. While it will not always be visible, a good rule is 24 hours. Try to apply within 24 hours. And then PhDs go, but how can I change my resume so quickly? And I didn't cover this, but this is all covered in the resume writing masterclass that we're actually giving out also as a raffle. Is different from the CV writing, CV check that Poppy just mentioned. Be focused. This I didn't cover at all, but maybe I can spend a minute on it. Be focused in your job search. Many PhDs, they go out and they do the shotgun approach, which means, oh, I'm just going to apply for everything and then I will see what sticks. I can tell you it rarely works, especially in the current job market. The current job market is people get, or like when they look for candidates, they get like hundreds of applicants often. So you can see whether it's a generic application or it's a non-generic application. So how can you move from a generic application to a non-generic application? The easiest way is to focus on certain roles that you want to do. So how can you approach this? Do not only think about, okay, you know, what are all the skills? Combine your skills with your interests, your values, and how you want to actually live your life, right? There are things like, do you want to travel a lot? So be aware of all of these things. Just start understanding what you as a person want, because sometimes people come to me and say, Elena, I have a PhD in this field. What can I do? And my answer always is, I can't tell you because I don't know you. The reality is only you know the answer where you want to go. I can guarantee you one thing: if you have gone through a PhD, you do have all sorts of different skills, from writing to communicating to data analysis, that you can apply in various roles out in industry. But you need to understand yourself first. That's my recommendation. Narrow it down to 2 to 3 roles max, because then you won't have a problem to quickly adapt your resume within these 24 hours, because this is what we get a lot, but what we get asked a lot. And if you have a really good resume that is dialed in, it will take you no longer than 50 minutes to adjust your resume, because all you need to do is adjust your professional summary, and most of the skills and all the bullet points are already aligned with where you want to go. So when you think about creating a CV, you want to align your bullet points and everything you mention in there to the role you're applying for. And just as a little insert here, align your LinkedIn with that too. Because if they go to your LinkedIn, you want to create the picture of you're looking for this role, and you're interested in everything is tailored towards this role. Okay, that was a long answer, but yeah, in LinkedIn it says, so someone actually...
That was a really great answer, Elena. If you don't mind, I'm just gonna grab a couple questions from the Q&A
Sure,
box,
please
because
do.
I don't know if you've seen these ones, but we've got 32 questions in the Q&A box. So I'm just
Oh,
gonna
okay. Is there a different box? Oh, there's a Q&A box. Oh
yeah,
my
there
God,
is. I
that
mean,
was
we've
in
got
the
questions
chat.
for
I'm so sorry.
No, that's
A new
fine.
format.
There's a couple of really good ones here. So Jane has asked, if the job description has specifically asked for communication skills, oral and written, should you include your publication history and your presentations that you've performed, or do you have any other suggestions for what you should include for communication?
So the way I would do it, instead of including a publication list. So first of all, when it comes to publications, if you apply for a scientist position, you can, for example, create a link where they can access all your publications. Do not put all applications. There are certain positions when you think you want to move into a scientist position, publications can be important because people actually understand the value of the publication within the scientific research in companies. So that's the first thing. When you think about if you want to showcase, and this goes back to show, don't tell. So now you can come to me and say, well, I have presented, instead of saying I'm a good communicator, think about how can you provide evidence that you're a good communicator. It all goes back to providing evidence. And when you kind of start implementing this concept of providing evidence, you immediately know how to phrase it. You don't want to go and say, you know, I'm a good communicator. So how do I know you're a good communicator? Show me proof. What is proof? You can say, I have presented weekly in lab meetings. You can mention the stakeholders you have presented to. You can mention the occasions where you have presented to. So what you do, you don't just say, I do it, you provide the evidence you did it. And there, of course, it's important. When it comes to writing, I have written 3 publications. What was your part in it? Explain, if it's important for the role, how you did it. But of course, when you have the skill section, I understand it says only communication, so there is not a lot of way for you to explaining. But if communication is important, I would somehow have it in the bullet points, and you can just woven it in. It doesn't have to be like, you don't have to say communication. You can say it in different words in providing evidence of, you know, I've presented at X amount of conferences, I presented weekly. So there are different ways of doing it. Provide evidence. Cool. I hope this answered your question. Yeah, I hope.
I think it did. I think there was a really, really clear answer. So thank you. As you can see, we've now had so many more questions already jumping in. We've had a couple people asking about whether or not you should include a professional like heading section if you're also submitting a cover letter.
Absolutely. Let's talk about a cover letter for a minute. Do please always. So your professional summary is really, really important. I can tell you, as I said, we work with a lot of recruiters, we work with a lot of hiring managers. So there are a few things about cover letter. Most of them are never being read. So do please include a personal summary. When you talk to recruiters, when you talk to hiring managers, so the cover letter is used in 2 ways. So it's a screening tool. So if you don't submit a cover letter, I know you didn't even put the effort in writing it. So you're out. Screening tool. Most of the people will never read it. But if they ask to submit a cover letter, please do submit a cover letter, because it also shows if you can follow instructions. So please do always include a professional summary. Try to make it personal, and think about it a little bit like this. It doesn't have to be dry. It doesn't have to be boring. You want people to get excited to get to know you. So yeah, this is a short answer. Please always include it, and think of the cover letter as something that might never be read, unfortunately.
That's a really good point, isn't it? They might not unfortunately get to the cover letter. So definitely include everything you can on your CV.
Yeah.
So a few more questions then as well about how can you tailor the CV to the specific job? Like, how do you know which skills you should be including?
Great question. I also didn't address, but Angela and I, we kind of have this method where we ask PhDs to go out, find the different roles they're interested in. Again, find 2 to 3. And now what you can do, find 10 job ads across companies and look at the common denominators. What is common across all of these roles? And these are the things you're going to focus on, and these are the things you're going to put in your CV. And this is exactly what will allow you to adjust your CV within 15 minutes. Because when you have included, again, you will not be able to address every responsibility they list in the job ad. You have 3 to 5 bullet points. And again, the point is not to address everything. The point is to make them curious and give them a reasonable belief that you can do the job. So a really good tool, ChatGPT, because we do use it all. It's a great tool if you use it in the right way. Take, let's say you want to move into medical writing. I read this earlier. Medical writing. Find 10 companies who hire for medical writing. Take the job ads, put it in ChatGPT, and ask it for the common skills across these different common skills and responsibilities across these job ads. And this is a really good way on creating a resume that allows you to quickly adapt. And we have actually, this is what we teach. We do one-on-one. We have an accelerator program. This is what we teach our PhDs in that program, and it really works like a charm. So that would be my suggestion.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then somebody's asked whether or not putting skills in columns may affect the reading of the CV by an ATS system.
It's actually a really good question. And I do think, it may affect it. I have heard of that an ATS has an easier time to read a non-two column resume. I think in general, if you ask recruiters, they mostly have the ATS, I'm not exactly entirely sure to answer that question. But I do know from a recruiter and hiring manager perspective, what you want to do, you want to give them a standard format. And I know two column can be standard. I do know most of the people don't like it. Most recruiters don't like the two column format. From the ones that I have talked to, I read also a lot on LinkedIn. I learn a lot from other recruiters. I do think a one column is more of the preferred format, also because it's easier to skim. It's just something their eye is familiar to. And when when you skim through a lot of CVs, let's say 100 at a time, it's nice if you don't have to adjust your eye to something new, basically. So with the ATS, I'm not 100% sure, to be honest, but I have heard it's easier to screen. There's certain formats that it doesn't. There is this latex format, which I have heard is not easy for the ATS. So yeah.
Yeah, it's one of those questions, right, where you don't always know the system that's going to be used, but also it does help attract a recruiter's eye. So unfortunately,
Yeah.
there are always going to be slight difference of opinions as well with these things. So
100%, Poppy, you're making a really good point. So what we're teaching is Angela has hiring experience for over 20 years. She has worked from startup to big company in insurance, technology, data. So what we're teaching is one way, but I think it's quite aligned with the people we talk to who are usually in recruiting or hiring. But of course, there's always something different, and someone may have a different preference. So you can't always know for sure.
something else I just wanted to bring up, because we've had a couple questions about this, approaching it in different ways, but somebody asked whether or not having a gap in your CV looks bad. Let's say you took a gap year or some time out. Or similarly, somebody said, you said not to mention everything you've ever done on your CV, but if by leaving something out, you've left a gap in your timeline, is that an issue?
Okay. Yes, please. Okay. So first of all, I think we're in 2025. Career gaps shouldn't be a problem. And we can call it a career gap, guys. But what you can do, don't just write career gap, but maybe write about what you did. Did you upskill? Did you take care of children? It's all fine. We're in 2025. I don't think we have to be afraid of career gaps anymore. Angela always says, if someone thinks a career gap is a problem, it's a red flag. Walk away. Because this is, everyone raises children. I think we should nowadays, be open to the fact that this is the case. Everyone may have a break to upskill. Just explain. And if you were unemployed, I would still talk about the upskilling you did. Talk about these things. So make it clear what you did during that career gap. So I wouldn't leave it out. And when you think about, when I say don't put everything you ever did in your CV, what I'm referring to is don't put 20 bullet points in for every experience section. So choose wisely which to mention. You will have 3 to 5. You will not be able to mention everything you ever did. Choose relevant ones. This is what I mean. So don't leave whole experiences out. I mean, if you have 20 years of experience, as an example, maybe the last roles that you held, not the latest, but the first role that you held is maybe not so important. You can leave it out as an example. But I also want to say I have read different opinions about this. So there is no one size fits all, but with the not mentioning everything, it was referred to when you have the experience, do not list 20 bullet points what you did, choose 3 to 5. I hope that was clear or answered your question.
Definitely. And I really think your point about if somebody in this day and age, if somebody is unhappy with the fact that you took a few months break, or whether that was for any personal reasons, or as you say, raising a family or anything like that, this is probably a company that you're not going to have a good relationship with in the future. Applying for jobs is a two-way thing. You need to make sure that the company you're applying to is also a good fit for you.
Poppy, I love that you mentioned this, and I think it's so, so important. Understand your values and find a company that aligns with these values, because, and this may be something I can quickly address. So Angela, everything she did in her career was hiring for fit. So what does hiring for fit mean? Hiring for fit is beyond technical skills. It's about alignment of values. It's about alignment of mission and vision. And why is it so important? Because a lot of us PhDs, we're burned out. We're like, oh, it's the academic environment. You know, I want to have a 9-to-5 job. I move into industry. Yes, but remember one thing. A burnout is often a sign of misalignment. It's a sign of misalignment of your values. It's a sign of your misalignment. You have many PhDs or many people in academia. They're doing just fine. They go with the pace. They love what they do. For many of us, it turns out maybe the environment is not right. So find an environment where you fit, find an environment where you are appreciated. So that's why I always say, go in when you, and this is not part of the topic, but when you go to an interview, please bring your personality, please show who you are, because people want to know, who are you as a person, and do you fit into the company? It's a two-way street. And also you interview them just as much as they interview you. So just be aware, never hide who you are. Be yourself, and you will find a company that aligns with who you are. It's not important. Don't try to put yourself in a box where you don't belong, because you will, this is a recipe for burnout. So sorry, that was completely irrelevant in a sense of CV, but just please find this alignment. And remember, you're valued, you have valuable skills. Interview them just as much as they interview you too. Yeah.
Yeah, that wasn't irrelevant at all. I think sometimes, it's really easy to get bogged down in the details of what do I put in my CV, but actually it's a long process and we do have to consider all of it. Coming back to CVs though, a couple of people have said, you mentioned the sort of length for a CV like this is between 1 to 2 pages. Is it better if you can put it all in 1 page? Is it better if you have more to fill up to 2, or does it really not matter?
Let's say it like this. I think it's also, again, a bit country dependent. I think in the US, you really try to stick to 1 page. But I also want to say, if you think about a PhD, most of us are fresh graduates. You don't have a ton of experience. You're not. So usually they say if you have more than 5 years of experience, usually you can add a second page. But most of us have very little experience. And I also saw, and I just want to address this, should I put part-time things? So I want to say one thing. Everything you did is experience, whether it's paid, whether it's not paid. Just because you paid for something doesn't make it an experience. An experience is something that you have done, where you have learned through, where you have troubleshooted. So for example, I was part of an organization called PhDs Beyond Academia here at Karolinska. I ran sessions. This experience has taught me so much. I've organized events. I had to set up the events. I had to make sure we had food. I had to learn so many skills. And I actually, I've learned when you create an event, what is important to think about, how many people will show up. It all gave me experience. So if this is relevant to where you go next, you do please put it, whether you were paid or whether you were not paid, whether it was a free work. Please, everything that provides evidence that you can do the job that you're applying for, do it. And I had a podcast interviewee. He moved into marketing, and he had some private experience where he was writing for a music magazine. Completely irrelevant. But you know what it showed? It showed passion. He was passionate about working, maybe potentially in marketing, in writing. He was passionate. It just gave evidence that he's applying for a role that he's truly passionate about. And this is so important when you move into industry. They want to see you're not just going here because you don't know what else to do. They want to see you're passionate about the role. You're passionate about working in that company. So yeah, everything that provides evidence towards that, please put it in.
Great, thank you. And looking at the time, I think maybe one final question,
Sure.
and that's about references. Should people add their references at the end of their CV?
No.
Okay.
References in references. Now I'm thinking, you mean like references in publication references, or?
No, I mean, what I think the question means
references. Sorry, no, completely.
like you're like a contact for your old boss or somebody who can confirm
they will
done the jobs you've said.
They will ask you if they want to contact someone. They will, usually the way it goes, if they want to know, they will reach out to you and ask you. So you mean a reference? Yeah, sorry. I was completely in citation references, lost.
No, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't do it. They will ask you because in the beginning, they will not do that when they're further into the interview process, and then they will likely ask you to, who are the references you want us to reach out to.
Perfect. Well, with that, I'm just going to say a massive thank you again. I don't know if you've had time to have a quick look in the chat, but there's been so many really kind comments, people saying thank you for answering the question, thank you for taking the time. So it's obviously been a really, really impactful workshop. Just to reiterate, we are going to circulate out the recording for this. It might take up to 5 working days, so please do be patient and make sure you check your spam folder in case it ends up there. But with that, yeah, a huge thank you for everyone attending. A huge thank you again to Elena, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.